today is what will happen when we combine yeast with hydrogen peroxide. Let's find out. For today's experiment, you're going to need a few things. Dish soap, hydrogen peroxide, yeast, an empty bottle, half-cup measure, some warm water, some food coloring. I don't have food coloring, so I had to be creative. I've got some cherry crystal light, which will do the trick. You also need a tray. You also need a parent's assistant if you're going to do this experiment at home. First, pour 120 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide into your bottle. You might want to use a funnel. I don't have one, so I have to be extra careful. Now, you can add the food coloring. Again, because I don't have it, I'm using Crystal Light, because it will make a colorful effect for us. And we're going to add a little bit of dish soap. Just swirl it around. Nice, soapy, and colorful liquid. This is where it gets fun. We're going to add some yeast. We're going to stir it until it gets nice and foamy and mixed in. Yeast is used in bread and other things to make it move, to make it kind of alive. Makes those air bubbles. As it makes air bubbles, I wonder what it will do when it reacts. Now we're ready for the best part. Once your mixture is all nice and mixed, we're going to swirl it around just one more time and add it in. It's growing. We got a great foam action right here, you guys. Going and going. Science. That was a lot of fun. Hope you learned some cool things. Questions. Question 1. What is the foam made up of? What is this goopy stuff? Yes, it's peroxide, hydrogen peroxide and yeast, but what did it produce? Well, I was giving you a moment to answer, but if you want to know, it's made up of thousands and thousands of tiny soap bubbles. You see, when we caused the chemical reaction with the yeast and the hydrogen peroxide, it made a chain reaction in the soap bubbles that put oxygen into every tiny little one and blew those bubbles up. Kind of like how when you breathe into a balloon or breathe to make a bubble, it just did that times a million. My second question is, where do the soap bubbles come, not the soap bubbles, where do the bubbles come from? What do you think? I might have answered it already. The bubbles are oxygen gas that are released from the hydrogen peroxide. So hydrogen peroxide is a compound similar to water. So water, you might have heard being called H2O, which means it has 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. Hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. So 2 hydrogen and 2 oxygen. The extra oxygen makes it a very reactive chemical. So you use it a lot as a bleaching agent, which when you think of bleach, it takes color out of clothes. It's very intense. When we put that in there, hydrogen peroxide is actually a very, very, very small amount, because if you get a lot of it, it would be very toxic. So the one we used was 3%, which means the rest of it was made of water. The yeast in the demonstration helps the reaction get started. In science, we call that a catalyst. It's what causes everything to begin. It increases the reaction rate. It would have done something if we just let it sit there for a while, but it made it go even faster. Put it in the bottle. The yeast releases extra oxygen, so it makes even more with the hydrogen peroxide. And this results in our foam. Touch it. In our foam. The food coloring and the dish detergent is used so we can see it better. The bottle is really light because the bottle is mostly filled with air. There's very little of the liquid left inside of it. And if we were to touch it right after the experiment, it would feel warm. It's a pretty cool thing to try at home. When the reaction stops and it's sitting kind of still like this, that means the mixture is safe to clean up and it can go down the drain like anything else. I hope you had fun on Fun Science today. See you next time!